Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Oh, hold on a minute. Let me just get that off the screen. Where is it? Ah, there you go. Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and podcast. How are you this morning? Now, that fabulous meme, I bet there's a couple of seconds on that medieval torture stretcher rack where it feels incredible. You can almost feel that, can't you? No, that's enough. Thank you very much. That was my chosen meme, obviously, this morning, but it was nearly challenged by this one, the Knights of the IKEA table, which I thought was very funny as well. And if I just take off the ticker tape at the bottom, it's Jerome.Inc. who gets the credit for that. I had a quick look. It doesn't look like they are the cartoonists, but whoever you are, the cartoonist who made that fabulous cartoon, well done, Knights of the IKEA table. And as you can see from the ticker tape, we've got Bob and Viv with us from around 9:30 this morning on tour. And they've been to Lagos, and I think we've just about managed to pronounce that correct. I'm getting a thumbs up from James, who will join us in just a minute. But, however, is it Benagil? Maybe they'll be able to tell us. Maybe they won't. But they've been down there at the caves in the Algarve having a most fabulous time by the look of it. That's a cracking classic shot, isn't it? Looking up through the hole in the natural. It's not an amphitheatre. It's like a temple, a natural temple. Must be amazing in there, especially on a hot day in the Algarve. So looking forward to speaking to Bob and Viv, who have been in Lagos. I think they're a bit further up the country now, so we look forward to speaking to them at around 9:30. Have you had your breakfast yet? I thought this was rather nice that I saw as I was browsing as well. Yes, James, it does need to be spun 90 degrees to the left, but a lovely bit of, that's Klimt, isn't it? Some Klimt toast there, and I love the hair of his characters here. A bit of blackberry and raspberry for hair there. Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, how are you? What are you having for breakfast? How's it going? How was your weekend? A lovely picture and two videos in from John Heimbach. We'll have a look at his videos in a little while. Where's John been this weekend? That's nearby along the Vege River. Nearby to where? To whom? For the video that you'll see and for our What You Did Over the Weekend segment, classical guitar and cello. Musicians are Diogo Carlos, you'll hear them later on, Tiago Anjinho, and the venue was the Capela das Pareiras in Ponte Lima. Guitarist is supposedly one of the best, or the best classical guitarist in Portugal. I wonder what he thinks about that. And also video from the Fado Fest in the Arcos de Valdevege, and that's a picture you can see there a little bit further along the River Vege there. What a lovely scene. Thank you very much for thinking about us, John Heimbach. And anyone else who has any pictures or videos to send in from the weekend's activities, or you might be actually, I was looking through my Google Photos the other day. So many fabulous memories and photographs there. If you came across something from your time here in Portugal, not recent necessarily, but a really lovely moment here in Portugal, you know what to do. Send it to us on 913-590-303. Let's have a chat with James.
Bon dia. Hooah.
Had a bit of trouble getting out this morning.
Excuse me. Must be some coffee or something.
Verbal. It sounded like, didn't it? Olá, bom dia. Tudo bem? Como estás?
Muito bem, obrigado. E tu?
Muito bem. Tu, muito bem, obrigado. Muito bem. Calor, muito calor aqui. 23, 24 graus aqui em São Martinho do Porto. And I don't think there is there is a literal translation for Silver Coast, but it's not a phrase the Portuguese use. It's one that we have thrust upon them, James. So yeah, not bad at all at 24 degrees nearly at just after 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. How are you? How have the last couple of days? How have the last 7 days been for you? Big sigh.
Big sigh, because every time you ask, I get to remember that, well, two things happen. One is, the first thing is I remember just how happy I am to be here, and just, so every day is a wonderful day. And then there it is. And then the second piece is, that's just the boring answer. I mean, it's a wonderful answer, but it's the same every time. It doesn't change. So yeah, it's lovely. I just can't think of any reason to be anywhere else.
I honestly don't know why I bother.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's the point of asking you how you are?
Mesmo.
Yeah, igual. It's funny, isn't it? Because it's a great, I was going to call it an affectation of our times. It's customary, isn't it, to find out how somebody is. Now, may there have been a time in human history where it was completely unnecessary, because all was well anyway, and it would have been a really silly question like, what do you mean, how am I? I'm great, of course. What's wrong with him? He keeps, the first person who started asking how other people were might have been a real social pariah, mightn't they? But it caught on, that's for sure. And the other thing is, we might have been more psychic in the past, and we wouldn't have needed to ask, because it would have been really obvious, wouldn't it? It's like, oh, I'm not even going to ask that person. In fact, I'm not even going to go anywhere near that person. I can see how they are. I'm going to stay over here.
I can feel how they are. I can.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to ask. I thought of changing it up once, but anytime you change a major cultural norm, like how are you, to something else, it's very difficult. But I thought a more a deeper question would be, who are you?
Oh my, yeah.
That's asking. Good morning. Who are you?
Yeah, I know.
Damn, not so early, James. Come on, leave me alone.
Did you see James this morning? What's up with that guy? Yeah, it's a
Who
funny.
Who is he?
It is a cultural thing, isn't it? It's something that's happened and we've stuck with, and it won't necessarily always be that way, will it? It's just what we do. It's just what we do at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of like shaking.
We don't really care. No one really cares today. How anyone else.
So it's just a rote response.
Fine.
So how you change that one up, by the way, is you change how it is you choose to answer the question if you're conscious. Yes. So, what do we base it on? We usually base it on the past, and generally the more recent past. So, I fell out of bed, I hit my toe on the table, those kinds of things. And then someone says, how are you? You go, I'm not so great. Blech. Because of those things. Yes. But I could choose equally how my life is in general, like, other than how I woke up this morning, and say, oh God, I just love being alive. I love being able to take deep breaths and being in Portugal. And then someone says, how are you? You go, fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. Pull up a chair, my friend.
Yes.
Pull up a chair.
And I have found by doing it, because my process in that, my mental process, you can't do that. It's like, why not? Is there a rule book somewhere that says how I have to answer that question? Why can't I base it on the future rather than the past? Where my life is going, as opposed to where I've recently been. I can make any choice I want in response to that. And what I have found is, when I choose the optimum positive, people want to know what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
They go, wow.
How do you do that?
Your life is fantastic. Tell me more. As opposed to fine. And they go, yeah.
It's a fascinating subject. I've learned from the best I think my mum says not too bad, as I recall, because people can be quite habitual with it, can't they? My stepfather used to say not 100% invariably. And my dad didn't always say this, but I loved it when somebody would say to him, "How are you?" He'd say, "Terrible, thanks." And he would say it in
It
quite
would catch them off, wouldn't it?
it was great. I used it myself over the weekend. Someone said, "How's it going?" I said, "Oh, terrible, thanks." And it's a real double take of a moment. You say, you see, there we are. We're both in the moment now, aren't we?
There you go.
So yeah, you can have some fun with that, and I think we can sort of define or remember people, can't we? And because there I am with my parents there, remembering, knowing what they said invariably in that situation, or what they sometimes said. Amazing, isn't it? Tell a lot about a person how they answer that question.
Yeah, the standard used to be fine, and I think now it's good. And I don't know if that's grammatically correct or not. It's, that would be about your behavior. It's like, well, I'm happy you're you're a good person, but
no, it's an American assault on our language again. I think I'm good. Yeah, I think that does cause some improper, King's English people to be a little bit upset with the Americans when they say, "Yeah, I'm good," or "I'm great. How are you?" "I'm good." That can be a bit upsetting, but it's right and nice. I love it. I use it myself. My kids use it as well.
Well, yeah, and if you take it literally, it's a different answer than "I'm well."
Yes.
Well reflects your state of health generally, your state of being, and
Yes.
good reflects your behavior.
Yeah,
I'm a good person. I'm good. Oh, yeah. Great.
But
good to have another one of you in the world.
Isn't it great that when someone says, "Yeah, right," you good? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. And if you're truly British, you would. And I'm thinking of reinstating this myself. It's asking, "How do you do?" Which is that's a lovely way of putting it, isn't it? How do you do? Especially on the first meeting. And if you can say it in a slam,
rather well, thank you,
Cary Grant kind of way. How are you? How do you do? How do you do? Very well. In Iceland,
the best I can.
Well, mustn't grumble. I'm going to be really British about it. I'm finding the weather rather hot at the moment. In Iceland,
what does that have to do with your doing? That's simply your opinion.
Oh my goodness, these American fellows, they do tend to overcomplicate the matter. In Iceland, we greet people by asking, "Fair mana ert you." Do you want to try that, James?
I don't even know. I don't even know. I think I can get the mana et part, but the two ends. Do you pronounce the H? Do you not pronounce the H? Is it so?
I don't know. Baddy has my WhatsApp number. She could voice it for me if you wanted to.
But better yet is looking at what it means.
No, which humans do you belong to is what it means.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the better part of the question.
Okay. We're all sons and daughters of our parents, and this is the norm. Oh, okay. But I guess, that could be a lot of trauma and emotional damage for somebody who isn't, perhaps. I don't know. But that's an interesting one. Lord Travanka's here. What do you say, Lord? What is from Texas? I guess you say, "How are y'all doing?" Wouldn't you? Maybe, I don't know. And a bon dia, a simple bon dia from Sarah this morning. And Deagle, goodness only knows what they say in Belfast. What do you say? How do you greet people in Belfast? There, Deagle. Only to have Americans go, "I beg your pardon." How has the new government settled in? Any proper bettering the people? Well, the Prime Minister's not very well. He's having a few days off. He's been told to stay in bed. Maybe he's been overdoing it. I think, generally speaking, I'm not going to say they're doing well, because I don't think that would ever be heard here in Portugal. But they're not doing as badly as some people feared. Might be one way of looking at it. A typical politics thing, not too bad, or they're the least worst so far. That sort of thing. And
could be worse.
And they're also about to go on holiday. That was the other thing. I was asking Daniel Reyes of Reyes and Pelicano last Thursday, because we like to have a chat about the Constitution, the law, and politics. And they have had their first 100 days. They've offered to cut taxes. They've come up with some new policies that seem to be generally notwithstanding, obviously, you're always going to get criticism for policies. But not too bad, I would say. In Belfast, we say when greeting people, "What's the crack?" Would that be a fair pronunciation there? James, you winced slightly. And we do. Why don't we mix them up? A Texan and Belfast greeting first thing. What's a crack, y'all? And
Yeah.
howdy as well, short for how do you do? Yeah, howdy's nice, isn't it? I'm glad we had this conversation.
And how do you do? That's another one. How do you do?
How do you do? What with a little?
Just a do at the end. How do you do?
How do you do? Oh, how do you do? Okay, very nice.
How do you do?
Excellent. Who else is here? Joan is here. Bon dia todos. Michael Barton also. See you Wednesday. Loads of people coming to the Storytellers meetup. Bon dia Gumpers. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I reckon we did. Algarve, Laura Puntin is here as well. Bon dia Algarve também. Nice one. Laura, good to see you this morning. Coach Turner has a God Squad tip of the day for us. And before you tell us what's on your mind, James, and bear in mind we've only got about 15 minutes.
We've got way more than a minute, so we're good.
Well, we can still get distracted before that moment.
It's true.
Very nicely put, James. And what's this?
The mindful moment. Okay. Gratitude. I'm a big fan of gratitude.
You kept
is
that
the most powerful tool. No matter what's going on around you, every day, take a moment to reflect on everything you have to be grateful for.
Let's not wait. Let's do it now, shall we?
I just did it.
Yeah, you just did it. Here we go. That's my Homer Simpson style moment of gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yum. Okay. Your mindful dad joke this morning.
I just had to post this one. Are you ready to stop complaining about winter and start complaining about summer?
Is this aimed at anyone in particular?
Yeah, the Brits in general.
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. Well, I mean, for me, it's a sweet spot. Give it an hour, and it might be very different.
Yeah, and every day in Ericeira is, I mean, it just, the joke in Great Britain, as I hear, is, give it an hour, it'll be a different season, or 4 seasons every whatever it is. Yeah. And it's the same, if it's sunny and it's a hot sun and you're standing in the sun, you're hot. Then you step in the shade and you're comfortable. Then the wind blows and you're cold. It just changes all the time. So why am I going to complain? How's the weather? Changing.
Yes, thank you very much. Ask me again in 5 minutes.
That's right.
Bon dia, Portugal from the Shroud of Leicester. We've been talking about you already, John. How are you this morning? Right, James. Yeah, what's been going through that mind of yours? Actually, let me just rephrase that. We're on a mindful kind of migration basis.
Oh, okay. Rein that boy in.
Found it.
Well, I did go. I was coming into last night thinking I still haven't really. I don't have anything that's hitting me. And I said, wait a minute, there was something left over from last week, I think, that I wanted to look at. And there was. And the question was, what's the payoff? I think it's a great question. When it's applied to pretty much any choice we make. And some people would argue choice because, it's a feeling, or, it was out of my control, or whatever it is. We make choices about everything in terms of how we behave, which is our reactions and our thoughts. So it came up around, typically anyway, what's the payoff to something we consider negative, like being miserable? What's the payoff for that? What do I get? What's the juice I get from being from responding and walking through life as a miserable person? There's no payoff for that. That's all bad. It's like, no, there is a payoff.
Yeah.
If we look, what is the payoff? And one of the maybe even infinite possibilities is I don't have to pretend to be happy. Okay, well, can you just be happy? Well, not if I'm miserable. Well, what's the payoff to being miserable? The answer to I don't have to think about being happy is, one, I don't have to think. One is I don't have to try to be happy in challenging circumstances. It's easier to just be miserable than to do the work to change my misery. So what's the cost? Well, then the cost is pretty obvious. I get to be miserable all the time, and that impacts my health negatively and probably causes people to not want to be around me a whole lot.
Well, misery loves company, of course.
Well, yeah, there is commiseration. That's another word I love because it's so accurate. We commiserate. And you can do that with pretty much any behavior, positive or negative. What's the payoff to being positive? Well, I get to feel good most of the time. It seems to be inspiring to most people, except miserable people. Maybe they don't want to be around a positive person because then they have to work harder. I don't know how those dynamics work in detail, but that's the payoff to being positive. What's the negative? It's just the complete opposite of being miserable. Is I have to work really hard in the face of miserable circumstances to find the positive things, to focus on. And so it's more work, requires more consciousness and more effort to do that. So there's a payoff and a cost to everything that we do. The difficult thing I have found, at least when I was practicing psychotherapy, was finding the payoff to what we might define as negative behavior. What's the payoff to getting into trouble all the time? What's the payoff to being the scapegoat in the family? What's the payoff to being considered untrustworthy? What are the payoffs to those things? And those can be difficult to find, but they're there.
Yeah.
If we look.
I think Sarah knows a thing or two about this. Another reframe on that question, as in what's the payoff, is what's right about this that I am not getting. And I think that means as in getting, as in understanding rather than receiving there. So yeah, what's right about this situation that, is perhaps ultimately unsustainable or dysfunctional. Yeah, I persist in doing it. What's right about this that I'm not getting? And what am I creating with my point of view? Thank you, Sarah. I love it when you talk like that.
Those are all the impacts of those choices.
And what would it take to change that? Now, I guess part of the process of the change and the transformation and the mindfulness here is understanding the payoff. And then you can weigh it up, can't you? Because when it comes to the payoffs of the things you were talking about, some of them are really quite enjoyable, aren't they? Like being the center of attention, even if it's for negative reasons. That's still, if that's how you're used to getting attention, you might quite like that. Being right is a massive one, isn't it?
So righteousness is huge.
But from the point of view of being a bit grumpy about life, and I have had periods like this myself, is you get to be right, don't you? So it's like nothing ever works out. Or see, I told you it was a pile of poo-poo.
Well, with righteousness, we can be right about positive or negative.
Yeah.
It's just the being right. It's what we look at. It's like I'm righteous. So if I'm negative, I find negative things and I can be right about that. Yes. And I can demonstrate that by pointing it out to everyone. See how bad that is? See how bad that is? If I'm positive, I can be righteous and say, well, you missed that and look at that. And these things are all good. Yes. So I don't, that's a position that is, to me, it's an ego position. Ego needs to be right to feel that it will survive. And survival is at the core of our being. Like, who am I? I'm someone who must survive. If that is challenged, then I'm going to fight it. And righteousness is one way to fight that. Yeah,
that's right. And if you turbocharge that with habit, that can go on for a very long time, can't it? So if you imagine having a parent, a sort of a grumpy parent who might delight in saying when you have a difficult time, and then they get the chance to say, "See, I told you life sucked."
Yep.
It's like, what? Yeah, you see. It's like, I'm sure it's just a bad day. No, it's always going to be like that.
Yeah,
that's quite the imposition, isn't it?
And you not so extreme in such an extreme way, but you just described my relationship with my father.
Oh, right, okay.
And he was a pretty negative, very anxious, very kind of like on the edge sort of guy who used to say things like, "There's never enough money." And we were doing quite well. I mean, we had a 3-bedroom house in a suburban area of the San Francisco East Bay. We were in one of the wealthiest areas in that area. We always had food to eat, clothes to wear, house to live in. There are lots of good, positive things, but I felt like we were poor.
Yeah, because of the constant conditioning and programming.
Well, that and the fact that the people around us had more in general. It was a very wealthy community. So but the two together, I grew up in a real position of actual financial privilege and felt like I was poor.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? What the things us humans can do. Hold on a minute, including zapping a fly on our head. Watch this.
or like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's incredible. Sarah doesn't know any righteous people. Well, you're looking at two now, Sarah. Come on. I'm happy to be righteous.
Is she being sarcastic?
I
Or
think she might be. She might be being righteous in a kind of
could be.
way, right? Is that possible?
Is that right?
The 3-day holiday getaway awaits this week for Joao Ernesto. Pam and I head up to the Picos de Europa National Park in Galicia, Spain, just a few hours away, to amazing alpine landscapes. Oh, we want the pictures. 913-590-303. Look, we rumbled her, didn't we? There, we knew what you were up to there, Sarah Taylor. Honestly, I thought Michael Jackson was with us for a moment. That was uncanny. Right. Anything else on this matter? What's the payoff? It is, I mean, it's worth a second look, isn't it?
Well, yeah. And I think that what can be motivating or informative about making the change, because ultimately it's like, why would I make this change? Right. So if it's all good payoff, then maybe there's no need to change. But typically, if we're asking the questions because something's not working for us.
Yeah.
And so looking at what's the payoff to remaining this way, and then also looking at what's the cost of remaining this way. What is it costing me? It's costing me my relationships. It's costing me, my lifestyle. It's costing me enjoyment in life, whatever it is. What is the cost? Then we can begin looking at what do I need to do to change that if we make that choice. And again, it's the cycle over and over. It's the profound wisdom of notice, choose, and act.
Isn't it just?
I have to notice things aren't working for me. Things aren't the way I want them to be. So what then is like, what's the choice? Well, part of the choice is to take a hard look at what's going on. What are my attitudes? Why is it being this way? And when it's so ingrained in us, it takes major waking up and work to make that change. Yeah. I had to do a lot of work around abundance to get past my training of being poor. It's like, I'm not poor. My life is great. I'm able to live my life. I can pay my rent. That's a positive thing. I may be just barely getting by, but I'm not suffering. Like it feels when I think I'm poor, that kind of thing. So it takes major work to change those things that we, as you said, became habit by virtue of things that weren't really our fault. It was just what we were taught. And we tend to believe our parents are the first humans we come in contact with. They're responsible for caring for us. So we tend to feel like we depend on them and that they're going to do that. And they don't always.
That's right. I'm still alive, so they must be doing a good job. Now,
in many ways, that's true. Again, if you take a positive attitude, it's like, hey, good job. My kids made it to adulthood.
What possibility exists here that I haven't considered? Great questions from Sarah this morning. Thank you, Sarah, for these. And your homework, James, is to buy a bottle of wine for more than €2 this week. Your abundance practice.
More than 2.
Right.
I think the most I've paid so far is $1.99.
All right, let's take it a step at a time. So are you happy to go for over €2? Is that going to be too challenging?
I can take the challenge.
I can be your emotional support wine buying buddy.
You know what I'll be doing?
What?
I'll be looking for the bottle that's 201.
I know you will. And I might push you just up to like 203, 204, 205.
But this has nothing, unfortunately, I'm happy to say this has nothing to do with abundance and poverty. This has simply to do with there's so many wines out there. How can I limit my choices? Like, well, I'll choose the cheapest ones on the shelf and see how they taste. So it really is an experiment. And, so far, I haven't had one bottle that we would call a cheap bottle of wine in Portugal that I've said, ew, no wonder people spend more for wine.
And what amazing research to be able to do as well, right? Another reason to be cheerful here in Portugal.
Yeah. And so, fortunately for me, I'm pretty much over that poverty mentality, but it took a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of education. I had to learn a lot about money that I didn't learn along the way. So I think I haven't read it, but I think that is essentially the content of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Essentially what the two kinds of father archetypal financial father figures that you could choose from.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I like I said, I never read it, but I assumed based on my own experience that it had to do with how we were trained around money.
I don't know if there's much about abundance in there. It's a kind of mindset, isn't it, about how to look at money? And that's interesting because I was talking to Mrs. M the other day, and I was going to start writing a book called what did we come up with it? Like Happy Dad, Unhappy Dad was going to be mine because I had two a father and a stepfather, and I could equally write. I could take all the chapter headings from Rich Dad, Poor Dad and transpose them into Happy Dad, Unhappy Dad. Yeah, and it's like it would be. I think it would be a fascinating. Well, it's like the conversations we have on a Monday morning. It'd be a fascinating insight into human behavior and what that leaves you with. And as you always say, that you are free to choose. You once you notice by analyzing the behavior of those who are around you and raised you, you have a choice, don't you? You can find yourself at choice rather than living within your conditioning and programming.
Yeah.
That's serving suggestions.
Yes. And the first step noticing is, if it's important, you can't avoid that one. You can't not notice when something is like, well, I guess you can be unconscious, so you're not noticing, but it's more work to notice. And because then it's like, oh, now I need to make a choice, even if the choice is to not do anything about it.
And it's a little bit no pain, no gain in a way, isn't it? And I know that phrase can be overused.
Yeah, what's the payoff to being ignorant? Okay,
yeah.
Well, I don't have to think.
Yep. Okay. Sarah has stopped heckling now.
It's all right, Sarah. We love humor on this show.
I'm a little spicy today.
Ooh, look at that jalapeno.
Look at that jalapeno. Right. It's a little musical interlude and then bring Bob and Viv on, who may have something to add to this conversation as well. Thank you, John Heimbach from the North. This one is the Diogo Carlos and Tiago Anjinho performance. It was the Capella das Pereiras. Let's enjoy this and come back with Bob and Viv straight up. Wow. I was going to give you them and you rapturous applause, but it doesn't seem right. Is that how they treat you up in Pontalima, Bob and Viv?
Yes.
All the time. All the time.
You go, there's music like that playing in the background. What a way to
everywhere they walk, that guitar and cello follow.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in Ponta de Lima. They make a real effort. Right now it's a full.
It's a concert every night from the 13th to the 30th.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So every night at 10 o'clock, there's a concert somewhere.
Incredible.
And it's that caliber. Yeah.
All right. Well, you and Ponta de Lima can have some of this now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bob and Viv are here this morning, everybody. Where have you been? That's not Ponta de Lima behind you. You're on tour, aren't you?
Yeah.
We're still here. We're still right outside Lagos.
Yeah.
Oh, are you? Okay.
At Espinche, Espinche. It's right outside Luge, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
we're just right outside Lagos. So
yeah, right in that territory. An amazing village. Last night's the first night we heard any barking dogs. We've been here 3 nights.
We have found the quietest village in
lucky you.
In Portugal.
Keep that quiet. Keep that quiet. There'll be people flocking there when they hear that news. That's
Yeah.
There are
amazing.
no people on the street. There are no dogs. It's just so
It's
quiet.
very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So how's it been then? This is quite the contrast. I mean, it's a polar contrast, literally, isn't it? You live in the north of Portugal. You're on tour in the south. Why is that, and how is it?
It's great.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
one quick thing with the polar contrast. It's much more comfortable here than it is in Portugal, in Ponta de Lima right now.
Right now, it's hotter.
Temperature wise,
Yeah.
it's much hotter in Ponta de Lima than it is here.
Yes.
Right.
So,
They're going up to 34, 35 all week this week. So I'm glad I'm not there.
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
gonna
not just
be
the
hot.
Brits who moan about the weather.
No.
James doesn't like hot weather. He told me.
I don't like hot weather.
Yeah.
So, mate, people from California, Colorado, Texas, admitting they don't like hot weather. It's amazing.
Well, people from
Because
Southern
it's always
California
hot.
love hot weather. That's why they're in
Yeah.
Southern California.
Right.
And that's why you're here. Yeah. Cool.
And that's why I'm in Northern California, right?
I
That's
grew up
always
in
what I
Florida.
like.
Yeah. I spent 48 years in Florida. I've had all the hot, humid I want. So
Okay. All right.
Enough of that.
I enjoy the cool weather.
Right. And you're taking a break from the hot weather of the north of Portugal in the
We
Algarve.
left in just the right week. We didn't plan it that way, but we
Who'd
left
have
in
thought
just
it?
the right week.
Right. And you can find cool places, literally. I mean, it
Oh,
must
it
be
was
nice in
so-
there. Can we
so
have a little
good.
bit of a slideshow then? Talk us through these. Now, Benagil.
Yeah, that place.
That place.
Okay, you're not gonna have a guess at
Everybody
that.
says it differently.
I do have to say there are rules for that. So if we knew them, I'm unclear a little bit on the G with the I, but I think it's a hard G, and the emphasis is going to be on the final syllable because it ends with L. So I would say it's Benagil.
Benagil. Let's go with Benagil. Thank you, James, for that.
That's pretty good. The woman who said it in Portuguese, the Portuguese who said it, I didn't even know what she was talking about. So that's not it either. But that's the best I can do.
But it's
It's
that
the best
place
I
with
can
the
do.
hole in the roof, the cave
Yes,
with the hole in the roof.
yes.
Okay.
And it is, and what's amazing now, we had already seen it on a trip
From the land side.
on a trip before from the top, and the fact that we were on a
Catamaran.
wide catamaran, and it could float right into the entrance, just to me was amazing.
Yeah.
The size of it, the sheer size of it.
Mm.
But it is as beautiful as you can imagine. It's just amazing, and natural formations. It's incredible.
Yeah. Okay. And in no particular order, here
Okay.
are some more pictures of your time in the Algarve. Praia dos Buizinhos here.
Little kisses.
Yeah,
beach
this
looks
praia we were at yesterday is we went for the restaurant. Can't remember the name of the town. Dos Semanas restaurant. No, it's not Sines. It's Sines.
Well, it's near Sines.
Anyway, it's along the coast south
It's near Sines.
south of Sines. So
Right.
Having
Okay.
the Sines Music Festival there this week, which is famous, and people come from all over for it. So it was heaving with people, but we got a table at our restaurant we went for, so it all turned out fine.
Great. And I knowing you two, I suspect you would have had a little snog at the beach of the Little Kisses.
Actually,
we did.
We
couldn't get to the beach though. It was a long way down and a long
Goodness
way
only knows what would have happened if you got to the beach, you two. So
Can you imagine?
It's actually it was a little private cove type beach.
Oh yeah, there are all kind of nooks and crannies where you could get up to all sorts of things.
oh, honestly, right? And is that the one? Is that the same one there?
Yes, yes.
It's actually in Praia de Baía de Portacova. It was Portacova.
Portacova.
Where this World Music Festival is. It's the same one that's held in Nazaré, if we understood them correctly, every year.
Oh, okay. That's
so
just at the road for me. Never heard of it, but that's typical. That's typical.
It's a whole week long of world music. It was great.
Yeah.
It's really good. Lots of drumming and
same spot.
Yeah.
So here we're actually north of Lagos. We're traveling with a friend from California who's interested in moving to Portugal, and there she is.
There's
Lynette. And so that's why we are even down here. and she wasn't finding what she was looking for in the Algarve. So we took her to another spot because this is an area that we really enjoy.
She'd never been to Portugal, and she saw Bob's birthday party on Facebook, and we'd never met in person. We met online through a workshop we were doing. And she said, I think I can make this work. And I said, wait, what? You're coming to the party? And she did. She came to Bob's birthday party from California.
Really?
Just for that.
That's
And came back a month later
and she liked Portugal.
Algarve.
So she came back and said, I'm going to be in the Algarve. Can you come down? And
I mean, I guess if she's flown to your birthday party, you can't really say no. Sorry, come to the Algarve. It's too far.
It just gave us a really good excuse to come back.
Yeah,
so,
and we are. One thing we have noticed here. Well, for one thing, the drought is obvious. There isn't a green blade of grass anywhere unless it has direct water. It's incredible. Even the hay they've put up, it looks like it was probably mostly brown before they put it up. So the drought is very obvious.
Yeah, it is.
One of the things we noticed, like yesterday, temperature was 22, 25, but the temperature was comfortable, but the sun felt intense, like the high mountains of Colorado. The sun was really intense on your skin.
We're back to the cool country with the hot sun.
Yes. Sometimes you're reminded of that, aren't you?
Yes.
You really are. So, but it's a delightful trip. We've been having fun.
Yeah.
It seems like a nice contrast, and a little bit of change is good as the rest, isn't it?
It is. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Good.
We love seeing new things.
And how is your friend? What did you say her name was?
Lynette.
So how's she finding it? Is she gonna? I mean, presumably she'll be back again next month just to move in.
No, but she's thinking,
no, but a few months. She'll be back before Christmas. So to look at Air Sarah, where James is, and
up towards San Martino,
Silver Coast, up in there. She's decided against the Algarve. It doesn't feel like home to her. She doesn't want to live here. So, it's complete. Yeah, it's over with the Algarve.
You should have just brought her straight to the Silver Coast. Game over.
Should have. Well, she wanted to go to the Algarve, so
people got to get it out of their system. But I'll see her here. I'll expect to see her on a regular basis in the Silver Coast.
Before Christmas, she'll be in San Martino. Yeah.
Well, James may have some input on this. One of the issues she's looking at. She has 2 dogs. She wants to bring with her, and like Sinesh, and Portugal, the housing is basically all apartments, and we said,
if you want a view,
if you want a beach,
she wants to be able to see the water if possible,
and that was one of the things down here that houses. She didn't enjoy. And we said, well, we know of houses up on the Silver Coast where you can see out to the beach. So that's one of her criteria is she wants to not only be walking distance, she wants to have a view of the beach.
Yeah, even if she has to go upstairs and look over.
Well, that's right up my alley. That's what I'm looking to create for myself in my upcoming move. I know a little bit about Spinho, which I think was the reason there was the other town you were talking about, Spinch. There was some confusion about tourism in those two places because there's such a similar pronunciation. They're nothing alike, right?
Nothing alike.
I say, that must be the town they were talking that came up when I was talking about Spinho. At any rate, I know a little bit about both those coastal places, and you're not going to find a house with a view of the ocean that's within walking distance, in either place. If you want to be within, well, it depends on what walking distance is. I live in a house and I'm 40 minutes to an hour walk to the beach. So, you could walk to the beach from where I live, but it's a big walk of big hills. So I think if you're talking about what I'm looking for, which is to be very quick within 5 minutes of the beach, then you're probably going to be looking at apartment living. And you're probably going to need a second, third, or even fourth floor to get a sea view because there's so many buildings around you. So just in terms of her expectations, it's like if that's what she wants, then she's probably going to need to find an apartment on a third floor or something along that line.
I imagine James will be able to show Lynette Ericeira and even give her a glass of €2.
I won't be here by then. I won't be here in December.
Won't be
I'll be in Espino. I'll be able to show her around Espino if she wants. And I will say I've got planned actually this week I'm going to be filming just sort of a walk through Ericeira for my old guy in Europe thing. So that'll be next Friday, not this coming, but the Friday after.
We'll make sure she looks at that.
Yeah.
We are her team right here on the screen, aren't we?
There we go.
There you go.
Look what the universe brought together just for her.
We're here for you. We're here for you.
Right.
Brilliant. All right. Whilst we were talking about dogs there, though, I was reminded, on a serious note for a moment, we need to help David down there in the Algarve, not a million miles away from where you are. It would appear, although the Algarve is a big place. David's lost one of his dogs, or she's wandered off. Good morning.
Oh no.
Maybe you can help me find one of my dogs. She's been missing for 4 days, unfortunately. You'll know him as Tuned but Unstable, possibly from Facebook. Normally only goes for 30 or 40 minutes. Like a lot of dogs do have a little wander, don't they, here in Portugal? Jimmy Choo would do that if I let him. Her mum, dad, brother, Emily, and me, David, are missing her dearly. I am near to Alto Raposeira, between Budange and Vila do Bispo. So that's further over, isn't it, on the western coast there. She was born here, and we are family, so it's very strange for her to go. So there's one of the pack is missing. If you can help with this one, if you spotted her, do let us know, and we'll get that message. That's in the Facebook group and of Good Morning Portugal. You can connect with David with Tuned but Unstable. Then let's see what we can do to help him get that little lady back there who's disappeared for 4 days now. Okay, so back to the Algarve and you guys. I think we've got a couple more shots to show. The obligatory cafe picture or restaurant picture.
That's the restaurant.
That's in Portugal. Yeah.
No food on the table. What's going on here?
Well, because they were closing. That was our table without the tablecloth. We were the last to leave.
How was it? What did you have? What did you have?
I had the roasted octopus, and then they split octopus rice, but which would have fed all three of us. I've never seen so much food.
Yeah, it
was so good.
That restaurant in Portugal is. We actually looked at the time, and both Viv and I had been there. And it's like, we can get there. So, before they close.
So
we went and had a delightful lunch.
We found it by chance the first time, but I rarely remember a restaurant or what town it's in, but I remember that one. And
can I add it to my I've got a thread on the Portugal Club of favorite restaurants of the Gumpers, so that sounds like it needs to be in there.
Okay, I'll put it on. It's just a small mom and pop place, but oh my goodness, their food is good.
Really good.
Sounds good. I can almost taste that. Right? Yeah. I can hear those vibes of appreciation. Very good.
Yes.
And then a little wander onto the beach. This is a lovely little spot.
Yeah, this is back down in the Algarve, which is one of the beaches that we passed on the way. Just we were cruising the edge inland before we got onto the boat and saw it from out on the ocean. So
the boat left Albufeira and went all the way up to Caraveira.
Caraveira. Yes.
Caraveira.
Yes.
And he named every beach along the way, and there are so many beaches on there that you would never know were there.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that there are so many of these, aren't they? They're so pretty.
Yes,
in some countries,
so pretty.
It's the only one, pretty much. But Portugal was so blessed with an abundance of beaches of this kind.
Yes.
And that does look like a mini Cavoeira to me, because you walk down to the Cavoeira.
Yes. It was one of my favorite places. We loved it there on the first trip. We had lunch there and went to the beach, and it was just great. But a lot of them are only accessible by water. You can't get to them by land, and a lot of the ones that are by land, you have to know where they are because they're not signposted anywhere. So you have to find them.
Very good.
Or find someone who knows and follow them.
And the amazing thing was whether it was so it's July. I had, as the driver, anticipated crowds and heavy traffic, and it's not been that bad at all.
No, so it's not bad.
There's Paul knows that beach. That's
We're playing
Oh,
Name That
yes.
Beach.
Yes,
It is
that's our
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
it's
Good. Thank
mastermind,
you.
isn't it? Your specialist subject is the beaches of Portugal. Paul Richards, your first question: which beach is this in the Algarve? That's São Rafael. Excellent.
Yeah.
Rafael.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what it was.
Yeah, very good. Well spotted there, Paul. Good morning to you.
Thank you,
A
Paul.
couple more gumpers who popped in. Owen's here as well. Bon dia, Carl, James, Bob, and Viv. Hola, everyone.
Bon dia.
As
Bon dia, Owen.
our resident poet laureate here, you might appreciate this meme as well that I was waiting for the right moment to share with you. There once was a man from Cork who got limericks and haiku confused. Very good. There you go, Owen, for you, especially for you this morning. And Liz F also joining us from Paris. How's it going with the Olympics over there? Still heard very little about the Olympics, Liz. Is it actually happening this year? Hello, good morning. Just to say that beijinhos comes from the word seashell, cowrie shell. Actually, beijinhos
Yes.
are little kisses. So you were snogging inadvertently, perhaps. There, you should have been exchanging shell.
The guy on the boat said it was little kisses.
Did he?
It was the Inuits he was talking
It was
about.
the
It was
Inuits.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually did a little research when I was off camera and found the translation for buizinho was bouquet.
Oh,
Oh,
So
okay.
confusing. Right.
I don't know.
But I said that no, buizinhos is not beijinhos.
No, no,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Huh?
so my curious mind had to find out what is buizinhos.
Well, they're all
what I got
beautiful.
in my translator was bouquets.
But
Okay.
I mean,
Apparently
people-
also
Okay,
seashells.
kisses, they're all the same.
Yeah.
exactly. And it's, I mean, you know, what could possibly go wrong? People get confused, start kissing each other. It's not the end of the world, is it? It's not the
And
end of
pick
the
up a
world.
seashell. 'cause,
And pick
you
up a
know,
That's
seashell.
right. Yeah, with a flower or two.
Yeah,
All of it.
yeah.
Right, back to this weather then, the north-south thing. I lived 2 years in Braga, and yes, north is hotter than the Algarve, as here there is always a nice breeze. That's so interesting, isn't it? Goes against what you might imagine. Talking
It's
about
not
West
always though. We have
It's seasonal
hot-
for sure.
Yeah.
yeah, well, we have heat waves even in the summer. It's been a beautiful summer up there,
Mhm.
but we've had 3 or 4 day heat waves where it goes up into the 30s, and that's what this is. And
Yeah.
we'll miss it. The last one was a few weeks ago, and
And now there's
it
one
gets
this week.
hot, but then at night it cools off. You open all the windows and you're nice and cool, and it's cool in the morning, and then you shut everything down about noon, close all the blinds, and you're fine.
You're
It is
so
interesting.
Portuguese now, Viv, aren't
I
you?
am.
Oh, yeah.
Boy,
You've
I am.
mastered,
It
you've
keeps that
mastered
heat out. Yes,
management of the system.
I will sit in the dark.
It is interesting though that the difference between Viana do Castelo on the coast and Ponta de Lima
Yeah.
and Braga.
Yes.
Ponta de Lima's inland, it's warmer than Viana, and you go on to Braga. Braga is oftentimes
10 degrees. There can be a 10 degrees difference there,
Yeah.
cold and hot. So it's both colder and warmer than
Yeah.
Ponta Lima.
yeah,
Very
it
interesting.
might be
Yeah.
10 Fahrenheit, but still it's
Maybe 10 Fahrenheit,
10
but
Fahrenheit, I
it's
think.
hot.
But it's
Yeah.
definitely hotter there.
Well, your correspondent there, João Ernesto, this week is the first proper hot week we've had this summer. Mostly been very pleasant,
Not the
but
first one. We had one too about 3 weeks ago.
They have air conditioning.
they were away.
missed the first one.
They were
They
in the
don't get a
Algarve,
vote. They have climate control.
but they're off to the mountains. They can't bear it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
João Ernesto, look, we have 1 week of the hot, and the Algarve fires go bananas.
Yeah.
And look, James Culmer, etymology is there to be amused by rather than frustrated. He's trying to help here, I think. Is that helping, James?
I generally am amused by language in general. So yes.
Eventually.
Yes.
Eventually. Right. So we've got music to come thanks to João Ernesto. We're going to go out with some lovely music, lovely concert. It was from the Fado Fest of Arcos de Valdevez. And I want to tell you about the milestone of reaching 400 comments on our Portuguese saying thread, which is quite amazing. So thanks, Antonio, for that. But before we do, got a couple of minutes to go. Want to find out more about your trip to the south? Has this increased your love of Portugal? Any other outstanding moments that you want to share with us?
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere we go increases our love of Portugal.
Isn't that lovely?
Yes, it's so beautiful. Just the natural beauty is overwhelming down here. It's just everywhere along the coast, everywhere you look is just gorgeous. It's just beautiful.
with the drought, it's not as
Yeah.
pretty inland.
It's not as pretty inland.
as
No.
we expected. But there's nothing they can, there's nothing to be done about that.
You can't water the fields, so it's.
But Lynette's interesting, isn't she? In as much as she needed to see it, only if to find out that she doesn't want to live there. Why is that people love it so much, as you've just been saying? I mean, it's beautiful to look at and be in, but you can't see yourselves living there.
Well, the first time I saw it, and that wasn't until we'd been here a year and a half, I knew that I didn't want to live there just from what I'd read about it, and it's hot. So, and it's expensive. So why would I want to live there? But I did appreciate seeing it. And when I saw it, it's like, okay, I see now why people come on vacation here, fall in love with it, and decide to move here. And I think it's a huge mistake to go on vacation anywhere and decide you want to live there. Because it's not the same. It's totally different.
Never move based on your vacation experience.
Don't move.
It's always living a life is different than having a vacation. It's like the difference between a marriage and a honeymoon. It's two very different things.
Yes.
Can you imagine, like New York? Yes, what an amazing holiday. Let's buy a place here.
No,
no matter how much it costs.
It's each individual has their own vibrational feel of where they are.
Their own homing beacon.
That's a good way to put it. And by coming here, she figured out, no, my beacon is still pointing somewhere else. She didn't know where.
Yeah. So she's slowly heading north now.
And that's like us. It's incredible. I think I've mentioned here before, I've even been flying back to Portugal and had this feeling and looked out the window and seen Ponta de Lima below us. I mean, it's if that homing beacon is strong, if that impulse or feel of a location is strong, it's incredible. And as much as we enjoy traveling around Portugal, which we absolutely enjoy, we always feel like home when we get closer to Ponta de Lima. And so it's I think each of us, James, you're moving a little now. You're being drawn to something a little different.
And it's what you just said was exactly how I came to Ericeira. And that will always be true. Ericeira will always have my heart. It will always have that sense of home.
Okay.
But Espinho it's been an amazing process, because that choice, while it's on the ocean and it's a lovely place, it's not Ericeira, but the checklist of pragmatic living a life kind of thing. It's like every checkbox gets checked in the Espinho.
Yeah.
And Ericeira, it doesn't. But it's like I'm in love with that. But it's the old was it Victoria who talked about, Spain is the mistress and Portugal is the spouse.
Right.
It's like Ericeira is the mistress and Espinho is the spouse. I can live a life every day and be very happy and have everything I need in Espinho. But that energetic hit, the vibe, as I've been calling it, is I trusted it, and it landed me in exactly the right place. So.
When your homing beacon starts throbbing, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Is that your homing beacon, or are you just pleased to see me? Right, we've got a God's God tip of the day. Bon dia, all you lovely gumpers. Welcome to, and thank you for that, by the way. I think that is very helpful for people to be reminded of that intuitive sense of home. Keep I was gonna say keep an eye out for that. It's not the eye, it's not the ear, it's an inner,
the heart.
It's the third ear, the third.
At least pay attention to it. You don't have to make a life-changing decision based on how something feels, but pay attention to what the feeling is and check it out.
Yeah. You know what to do, James. What James said.
Yes.
Bon dia, all you lovely gumpers. Welcome to a new week. Looking forward to hearing all about Lagos. And you certainly have now from Bob and Viv. It's a lovely town. And we've certainly enjoyed our trips there. The God's God tip of the day. I know you enjoy these, Bob. I was asked by a friend the other day how much he should exercise to stay healthy. Ooh, that's got to be a Portuguese. It depends, right? Well, as you would probably guess, that's like asking how long is a piece of string.
Good answer.
Yep.
And I wonder if that friend went off measuring pieces of string, one of those really literal people. But anyway, it really depends. There you go. Where you are starting from. In his case, he's a bit of a couch potato. Now he's retired, but had been into sports before family and work got in the way. A familiar story, I'm sure. I suggested his first step would be to build up walking 30 minutes per day. Then once he'd achieved that, we could review how he's doing. Look at the coach. Fantastic. He's leaning into his mate there with a bit of coachly advice. I would hope he could then begin to walk faster. My expectation is that if he sticks to the plan, he'll be walking reasonably briskly within a month. And that's when the real health benefits start to kick in. So hang in there. Perhaps you can do the same as Coach Turner's mate is doing here in the UK. Fantastic. It's 10 o'clock, folks. As much as we would like to sit chatting here, drinking a coffee and eating a pastel de nata all day, we've all got things to do. Final words then, and we'll go out with a nice bit of music. Bob and Viv. So I don't know if you've got reflections about the South or just more general, but what have you got to say based on this little excursion just recently?
The thing that immediately came to mind when you started that question is, wherever you are, be there.
Just be there. Enjoy it. Just wherever you are.
Yeah. And
find the good things about it.
Yeah. Back to the gratitude James was talking about earlier. And so this has been a very enjoyable experience for us. And so while we're here, but and we're looking forward to seeing some of you as we come back up the Silver Coast here in the next few days. But yeah, wherever you are, just be there.
That is, that's kind of the opposite of the homing beacon, isn't it? The homing beacon is a lovely feeling, isn't it?
It is.
To have that sense of, oh yeah, the plug is in the socket, as it were. Those other voices, like, oh, have I made the right decision? How do we deal with those, James? Because we are human beings and we have those voices in our heads, don't they? And if someone is saying, I don't have voices in my head, that's your voice in your head telling you that you don't have voices in your head right there. James, how do we deal with that part of us that's just saying, oh, I don't know if this is quite right. I don't know if I'm ever going to find my place here in Portugal.
Well, the simplicity, and I don't want to feel trite here, but it has been speaking of beacons, a beacon for me in my life is notice how you're feeling, make a choice about what you want to do about those feelings, and then take an action.
Yeah.
And no action is forever. But what's possible is infinite. So you got to start somewhere. So if you start by noticing, ooh, I'm feeling a certain pull for this, very much like, and I'm not as good with names as Carl is, but the woman that you took to the Algarve, she thought, Lynette, I want to check that out. Okay, great. You noticed you wanted to check that out. Now you made the choice. Check it out. Not really what I was looking for. Okay, that's the process. And we all go through it. So notice, choose, act, and realize you're not signing a contract for the rest of your life on the choice that you make. You can change your mind.
You can
Very good. And here's the other thing. Take Bob and Viv with you, because even if you don't end up living there, you'll have a great time with those two at Portugal Pathfinders. They are available.
And they have the experience where they can guide you to what they believe you tell them you're looking for. So this might be it, rather than just throwing a dart into the air and hoping it hits something that you want.
It takes a long time in Portugal.
Hey!
Well, but that's a good point, because we knew of another spot, and so we got her closer to that feel by taking a 2-hour drive yesterday.
Yes.
And since we're all from the States where distances are vast, a 2-hour drive was not that big a deal.
It's no big deal.
And a 2-hour drive back.
And a lunch on the way, a beat or two. Come on, let's do this.
Yes.
Pathfinders.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, you've been amazing. So do send our love and best wishes and regards to Lynette. We feel like we've met her.
I know.
That's great.
Send her our very best. Okay.
Yeah, and a week from Friday, she can actually get a little bit of a current tour.
I'll definitely remember that.
Yeah.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Bob and Viv. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this morning.
Thank you.
Another musical interlude courtesy of João Ernesto de Norte. Have a great break as well, João Ernesto and Pam. Boa semana, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Take care and bye for now.
Bye.